So Gold stars Matthew McConaughey as a gold prospector who puts everything on the line to dig for gold in Indonesia. When he finally strikes gold, he finds himself in over his head and desperately trying to keep control of that gold. I said gold a lot there. While this story is based on a real event, it doesn't tell the specific story of any one individual. These are new characters in a dramatized version of the real event. And if you're planning on seeing the movie, I would recommend not looking into the real live events because it'll kind of spoil some plot points along the way. So let's talk about the good. Really, the best thing about this movie are the performances. Matthew McConaughey goes full McConaughey here, puts everything on the line, literally gaining 40, 50 pounds for the role and kind of going naked in the movie. You still get to see your shirtless McConaughey here. And you get the full spectrum of his ability in this. You see the tragic moments, the excitement, the joy, the charm. It's all in here. But then you've also got like Édgar Ramírez as kind of his best friend. It's the actual digger. And they have a back and forth relationship throughout the whole movie that has many different dynamics and layers to it. Just does a great job. But really, you can look at the full cast of this movie and there's a ton of names in here. And I don't even know how they got all these actors in this movie because like Craig T. Nelson, I mean, he's in this movie 30 seconds, so I don't even know why he's in this movie in that role. But guys like Bruce Greenwood are only in it for a little bit, but does a great job in the movie. This is very much a performer's movie where everyone gets to shine a little bit, while not necessarily being like Oscar-type performances, just really strong performances across the board. Beyond that, it's just kind of a fascinating story, this idea of I mean, I don't know how the world of gold and prospectors work, and you get to see kind of the highs, the lows, and how it all can fall apart, how you can get robbed from you, taken from you, and what that all looks like in a way that I literally never even thought about how that works, and well, now I've seen a dramatized version of it. And I'll say for the story, it's kind of a slow burn that gets more and more interesting as it goes along. So as it starts out, you're going, okay, and it's good enough. All right. Oh, okay. This is kind of interesting. Oh, I see where this is going. And as it goes along, it really does get better and makes the earlier parts of the movies better through the revelations, through the things that happen. You can appreciate what they were setting up and where it was going along the way. But unfortunately, this movie isn't nearly as interesting as the subject matter or the story that inspired it. And it's not nearly as good as I think they thought it was when they were putting it together. So with that, we got to talk about the bad. And the first thing you have to talk about with the bad is the storytelling. It's just so straightforward and told in such kind of a bland manner. For a story and the nature of it that could be really interesting, there's a lot that could be here. This is just a very straightforward telling of this happened, then this happened, then this happened. And while these are made up characters and it's a dramatized version of it, it feels very conventional, like they felt like they were hand-tied to make it feel realistic. And therefore, it's told in such a bland manner. And besides a framing device that kind of gives it a little bit of spice to it, it's just so straightforward. And as the movie was playing out, I kept thinking to myself, okay, this is kind of like the movie The Jerk, except, well, not a comedy, and well, it's not really like The Jerk at all, other than the basic plot of the rise and the fall of a character. So really, it's not like The Jerk at all. But I kept thinking that because of how just bland some of the storytelling was, and you're just kind of going, okay, this feels very familiar. All right, I know this is all going to fall apart eventually, so what's it going to be? Why is it going to happen? Because of the way it's structured and the way the story is told. One of the other things that was really a pretty big problem for me is that elements of it were confusing in regards to the world of prospecting and the company. And, as they discover gold and they have to make things happen, they have a company that goes public on the stock market. And as it's happening, you're like, I know that Matthew McConaughey's mad, but I don't know why he's mad. I know that he's feeling shortchanged, but I don't know why or why he would. And it's just kind of confusing because they don't explain to you what's going on. And you're trying to piece it together, and it's way more confusing in areas that it shouldn't be confusing and where you just know emotions rather than understand what's actually going on in front of you. But really, the biggest problem with this movie is that there's nothing memorable about it. There's nothing distinct about it. The tone to it is just so flat across the board that it's just this very vanilla retelling of an event that happened, even though it's not really a retelling of an event that happened. It's a dramatization with wild changes to all kinds of stuff to just make it feel bland. It's not funny, it's not wacky and zany, it's just happens. The lead character, if it wasn't for Matthew McConaughey, him having Matthew McConaughey's personality and charm, he'd be very forgettable. He's just kind of this loser guy that stumbles across this big situation, but he's not particularly interesting at all. So overall, if I'm going to rate this movie, I got to give it a 6.5. It's good enough to rent on Redbox, but it's nothing to go out and rush to go see. You've got some great performances. You've got a potentially compelling story that's shortchanged by a very conventional and cliche storytelling techniques. And unfortunately, it's not as good as it should be or that it thinks it is. And if I'm being honest, I enjoyed it enough. I can't imagine ever rewatching this movie. It's not one that I would recommend to anyone in particular. But that's just one man's opinion. How about you? Have you seen Gold? Let's talk about it in the comments section. Or are you looking forward to see it? Let's have a conversation about it, because I don't want to just talk about Gold. I want to talk about Gold with you. If you're new to my channel, please consider clicking that subscribe button. During the week, I do a movie news roundup show where I just talk about whatever was most interesting in the world of movie news that day. And then also I do 3 or 4 movie reviews each week, and then a live show on Sundays where I kind of take questions, interact with people, and talk about kind of whatever is on my mind at the given week. And as always, thank you for watching.